When you come down to Daniel 11:36, when you come down to 11:36, it starts talking about a certain king. It is absolutely of critical importance that you understand for sure who this king is. Your understanding of who this king is going to affect what you understand about the king of the south and the king of the north and all those things at the end of the chapter. So, I don't know how far we'll get, but let's take a look. Let's start in verse 35. It would take the whole time. If I started at verse 29, it'd take the whole time. We wouldn't even get to verse 36. Let's start at verse 35. It says, "Some of those of understanding shall fall," in other words, they're going to be martyred, "to refine them, purge them, and make them white, until the time of the end, because it is still for the appointed time." When does the time of the end begin? It begins in 1798. And that's a study for another time. So now let's look at verse 36. You can translate it "then" or "and," either way. It starts talking about a certain king. Now, interestingly, it gives us approximately 14 or 15 identifying marks or descriptive marks of this king. Now, you would think that if the Bible gives us 14 or 15 identifying marks of a king, that we could figure out who the king was. But we can't. Controversy about this king. You read the Baptist Bible commentary, it shows the two different views. Let's go down looking at the descriptions of this king and see if you can figure out who this king is. Before we do that, though, I want to ask one question. From Daniel 11, of 28 to 34. Daniel 11, 28 to 34. Who do you understand in Daniel 11, 28 to 34, who is the main subject that's being talked about? The main subject. Okay? I'll just tell you who I believe it is, and you can study it out for yourself. I believe that the main subject being discussed in this passage of Scripture is the Roman power. And earlier on, if you go back many, many verses, clear back to about verse 16 or 18, you're talking about the Roman power, the pagan Roman power. But by the time you get to verse 30, it's talking about the papal Roman power. And so the Roman power, specifically the papal Roman power, is the main subject. That's verses 28 to 34. And let's go to verse 36. It says, "And the king shall do according to his own will." That's number one. This is a king that's going to do according to his own will. Now, there are many Adventists, and I'm not trying to criticize them, but let's examine what we believe. There are many Adventists who believe that this king is the king of France. Well, let me ask you a question. If you believe that this verses 34 to 36 applies to the French Revolution, did the king of France do according to his own will during the French Revolution? Well, no, he was guillotined. The king of France was guillotined. He did not do according to his own will. Was there a king in the French Revolution that did it according to his own will? They didn't have any king. They had dictators, but they did not have a king. They tried to do away with all kings. But there's a king that does according to his own will. He shall exalt and magnify himself above every god. Okay, that's a second description, identifying mark. He will exalt and magnify himself above every god. Third, he will speak blasphemies against the God of gods. Going to speak blasphemies against the God of gods. Number 4, he will prosper till the wrath has been accomplished. So this king is going to prosper for a certain period of time till the wrath has been accomplished. You want to know something to compare that with? When is it? When the wrath is going to be accomplished? Look at Daniel 12, verse 7. And then it says, for what has been determined shall be done. Number 5, he shall regard neither the God of his fathers. Number 6, nor the desire of women. Number 7, nor shall he regard any god. Number 8, he shall magnify himself above all. Now, as you start going through this, if you've studied history, the farther you go, the more it sounds to me like the Pope. That sounds to me, it looks like the king that is talking about here. I've already written down a long dissertation showing every single one of these specifications applied to the Pope. He fulfilled every single one. And the King of France did not fulfill every single one, as far as I can tell. I went up to Fort Worth to the Baptist Seminary Library to check for sure, could this be fulfilled at any time by the King of France. In their library, they had a shelf of books went probably 10 feet long on the different histories of France. And one day I went up there and I went over one after another the contest to find out, is this prophecy fulfilled in the King of France? I could not find that it was even half of it was fulfilled in the King of France at any time. Then it says that number 8 was he shall magnify himself above all. And then number 9, in their place he shall honor a God of fortresses. Number 10, and a God which his fathers did not know. Number 11, he will honor with gold and silver and precious stones and pleasant things. Number 12, thus he shall act against the strongest fortresses with a foreign god. Notice it keeps talking over and over again about a God that his fathers didn't know and about a foreign God. And he's going to honor this foreign God with gold and silver and precious stones. I'm not going to try to prove to you anything right now about who the foreign God is, but in my book that I wrote 40 years ago, almost 50 years ago, on this subject, I specified who I believe the foreign God was, and I still believe the same thing. I believe that the foreign God is the Virgin Mary. Are you aware that the Roman Catholic Church since 1950 has elevated the Virgin Mary to be co-mediatrix? Co-mediator with Jesus. And in the Roman Catholic Church today, I don't know the statistics, I'm not trying to find out, But people that have studied this say that there are more prayers offered to Mary than are offered to Jesus. I don't know that. I don't know whether that's true or not. But I know that people pray to Mary. On the inside of his clothing, Pope John Paul II had it embroidered on the inside of his clothing, "Mary, I'm all yours." Number 12, it says, "He shall act against the strongest fortresses with a foreign god." Number 13, "which he will acknowledge and advance its glory." Number 14, "he shall cause them to rule over many." And number 15, he's going to divide the land for gain. That dividing the land for gain is a very interesting subject too. The Pope has declared he has the power to absolve subjects from allegiance to their rulers. And you may be aware that one of the popes said when they were discovering the New World, he said, well, we'll divide it up, and we'll give part of it to Spain and part of it to Portugal. They were both Catholic countries. It's very important who you believe this king is, because who you believe this king is, if you follow the Hebrew text carefully, word for word in the next verses, it has everything to do with how you're going to understand the end of the chapter.